He didn't say a word, but somehow his silence became the evidence. In a packed school board hearing, his teacher's fabricated quotes flashed across the screen, words he never said, written as if he'd whispered a threat. Every eye in the room was fixed on him like he was a criminal, until he stood up. And what happened next changed everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. No one ever noticed Tyler Morgan. He'd spent his high school years perfecting the art of vanishing in plain sight. His wardrobe was neutral. Faded hoodies, denim that said nothing loud, shoes that never squeaked. His footsteps were measured, his gaze always lowered but alert, scanning for threats without drawing attention. He didn't eat in the cafeteria. He brought granola bars and sat on the edge of the school garden, pretending to read. In reality, he was listening, calculating who to avoid, who was safe, and when it was time to disappear. This wasn't timidity. It was self-defense, forged in the fires of seventh-grade cruelty, where laughter at the wrong joke had once earned him weeks of torment. To the staff, he was reserved. To students, he was that weird kid who doesn't talk. No one asked why. But Ms. Karen Whitmore did not believe in silence. She was a recent hire, mid-30s, with a freshly minted master's degree and a resume fattened with buzzwords. Curriculum innovator, disciplinary specialist, engagement strategist. She walked the halls with a posture that dared challenge and carried an air of unearned authority. The administration liked her. She used words like accountability and standards. But what she really craved was recognition, respect, control. To Karen, classroom silence was rebellion. And Tyler, with his downcast eyes and blank expression, was its banner-bearer. On the second week of school, when he didn't laugh along at her sarcastic remarks about kids today and their screens, she noticed. When he failed to participate in a discussion about symbolism in Lord of the Flies, she marked him absent in spirit. He was the only student who didn't laugh when she joked about giving detention for vibe violations. Then she found her opening. After class on a Thursday, she burst into the main office, visibly shaken, though no tears came. She reported in breathless detail that Tyler had muttered something under his breath during class. Something dark, something alarming. She couldn't recall the exact words, just the tone. Said he was seething. Said he looked right through her. Said she had a responsibility to act before something happened. Within the hour, Tyler was summoned to the front office. The intercom cracked through the silence. Tyler Morgan, report to the main office immediately. 23 pairs of eyes turned toward him. For the first time in his life, everyone saw him, and it felt like knives. A campus officer appeared outside the door. There was no explanation, no whisper of support, just the scraping of his chair, the weight of 100 gazes, and the long walk out of the room. No one said a word. Not his friends, if they could be called that. Not even Mr. Lance, the chemistry teacher who once told him he had a scientist's mind. Even his lab partner looked away, hands trembling slightly on the desk. In that moment, Tyler's silence, his shield, his sanctuary, became the prosecution's first piece of evidence. 3-day suspension, mandatory psychological evaluation, pending expulsion hearing. The words hit like a bureaucratic guillotine, delivered not with malice, but with the cold indifference of a machine doing what it was programmed to do. Tyler sat motionless across from the assistant principal as the sentence was read, trying to match his breathing to the rhythm of the wall clock behind her. He didn't speak. He knew better. Words could be twisted. Silence was the only armor he had left, and even that was beginning to crack. His mother, Melissa Morgan, arrived 30 minutes later, flushed from work, sleeves rolled up and mascara smudged. She tried to demand answers, raise her voice, but her protests evaporated in the dry air of administrative doublespeak. "We're simply following protocol. We have to take these things seriously. Ms. Whitmore has filed a formal statement." She looked at Tyler then, searching for something in his face, but he had none of it left to give. By the next day, the whispers had spread like wildfire through the halls. "Didn't he say something creepy? I heard he threatened her after class. He always gave me serial killer vibes." Students stared from behind lockers, like spectators circling a bonfire. Teachers whispered just beyond earshot. Even the janitor hesitated before unlocking the library door as Tyler approached. No one asked him what really happened. And what had he done exactly? During the reading circle Karen orchestrated, an awkward performance of participation, he had simply refused. He didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, didn't even shift in his seat. He ran his finger along the torn corner of his copy of 1984, the irony not lost on him. That quiet protest, that non-compliance, was enough to brand him a threat, enough to trigger the paperwork, enough to label him unstable. The school therapist, a pale woman named Dr. Levin, saw through it instantly. "He isn't violent," she noted in her evaluation. "He's withdrawing. He feels hunted." But her recommendation was buried beneath Karen's mounting documentation. Behavioral notes, tone policing, references to hostile energy. She'd even written that he showed signs of pre-incident escalation, a phrase she likely lifted from a school shooter prevention handbook. And then she escalated it. The school safety essay assignment was framed as a creative writing opportunity, but Karen chose the order of presentation, and Tyler's name was first. His essay, raw, metaphorical, quietly devastating, described the feeling of being watched, judged, and caged. It mentioned shadows, surveillance, being treated like a threat before ever becoming one. Karen seized it like a prize. She called it deeply concerning and marched it straight to the administration. They called it a red flag. Tyler didn't protest. What was the point of raising your voice in a system that only listened to its own echoes? He sat, hands folded, watching as his future was dismantled by fiction. Not the one he wrote, but the one Karen had built, line by line, with just enough plausibility to be believed. And that's when he stopped hoping anyone would listen. But someone else did. Mr. Blake Darnell, an old history teacher and the school's union representative, smelled something foul. A review of Karen's past revealed a troubling pattern. 3 similar complaints at her last job, all filed against male students, all quiet kids. He launched an internal investigation. Simultaneously, Tyler's mother contacted a local education rights attorney. Through the Freedom of Information Act, they demanded all written complaints, emails, and Karen's previous evaluations. What they uncovered shocked even the board. In her emailed complaint about Tyler, Karen misquoted him, writing things he never said. Worse, she admitted in private notes that she was testing the system to see how quickly it would act. Her goal? To establish herself as a strong protector of the school. It wasn't just malicious. It was calculated. At the hearing, Tyler, flanked by his lawyer, sat silently as Mr. Darnell presented the evidence. The room was ice cold. Karen looked confident, until her own words were projected on the screen. One board member physically recoiled. And then, something no one expected happened. Tyler, for the first time in weeks, stood and spoke. "I never threatened anyone. I just wanted to be left alone. But some people don't like silence. They think it means guilt. But it doesn't. It means peace." His voice was calm, controlled, devastating. The fallout was swift. Karen Whitmore was terminated for falsifying disciplinary records and ethical violations. She tried to sue for wrongful termination. She lost. The school board issued a formal apology to Tyler and his family, and the superintendent publicly pledged reforms, more oversight on teacher reports, better protections for student rights, and mandatory bias training. Tyler didn't return to school right away, but when he did, it was with his head held high. Students, once afraid or indifferent, now greeted him in the halls. The nickname Ghost faded, replaced by the Kid Who Spoke. A local newspaper ran the headline, "The boy who was too quiet to hear until he spoke the loudest." Tyler went on to graduate with honors. He's now studying psychology, hoping to one day work with kids like himself. Kids who aren't dangerous, just quiet. And as for Karen, well, she taught the wrong student a lesson in malicious compliance. Tyler followed every rule. He never raised his voice. And he still brought the whole system crashing down. Quietly,